everyone. My name is Brandon Faulkner. I'm an intern for Village Core. For other events like this, be sure to check out villagecore.org or check out our YouTube channel where we upload these meetings in case you miss them. In today's meeting, I'll be discussing digital photography. So essentially, digital photography, as it sounds, is just taking photos, going out in the world and taking photos of whatever you like or whatever piques your interest. So for me, I've been taking photos ever since I was little, and I've thoroughly enjoyed taking photos, despite not having the best camera equipment and not having the best editing software. It's not always about having the best gear; it's just about having the right eye and the way that you take a specific photo. So the way that digital photography can work is through many different means. You don't necessarily have to have an advanced camera like we see here that I'm looking at currently. You could simply take photos on your phone, which would result in good quality. They would look stunning still, and yet you'd still be taking part in digital photography. So that's what a lot of people do nowadays, rather than actually spending thousands of dollars on camera equipment, is they now use smartphones, because smartphones now have that 4K quality. They now have that ability to zoom in further than a lot of nice cameras. And they also have that ability to take really nice photos and videos whenever possible. Recently, when the Apple event was taking place to unleash some new products, that event was filmed using the product, using their phones, which is very impressive because we got to see really good camera quality coming from an iPhone, which only goes to show that digital cameras like this are kind of they're there, but they are still useful. But at the same time, your phone can now do these things that a luxury camera can do. But despite all of that, whether you're into nature photography, whether you're into portrait photography, whether you're into landscape photography, any means of photography in that nature, digital photography is the way to go for that. So here, what we have in front of us is the different Canon collection. Now there are different cameras that you can use, such as Canon, Nikon, and then other cameras that are out there, and they all range at different price points. So if you're looking for something specific when taking photos, here might be your best option. So here with Canon, we're looking at currently all cameras. So we're looking at different kinds of camera bodies and also their lens. So essentially what a camera body is a camera body is whenever you are about to go take a photo, you don't necessarily have a camera with a lens. They come in two separate pieces, or you can get them as a kit, as we can see here. So a camera body is what you kind of build up over time. So the camera body, which we're looking at right here, which is the ISO R100, which all these numbers essentially mean the different kind of quality, the different function of the camera, the different range, and all that sort of thing. But what we're looking at here is the body of the camera. So here you have the viewfinder, you have the shutter, which the shutter is up here. We have the way to control lighting, we have the record function, we have the different functions of the camera. We also have straps that you can use to wear the camera around your neck, that sort of thing. Here we have the battery port, and then we have where you'd put a tripod. So essentially what the camera body allows you to do is it's doing most of the work. It's taking that photo and it's doing most of the work. Essentially, after you buy a camera body in order to take digital photos, what you typically need, if I can find it here, is a lens. So a lens is what kind of builds up kind of the image that you're taking. So essentially, if let's say you're taking a photo of a surfer, you don't necessarily want a lens that can't zoom in extremely far. For about the past, I think, 3 days now, I've been taking photos of a surfer for a story that I'm writing. But essentially I'm using a massive lens in order to actually capture that moment when the surfer hits those waves and gets out there. And so with my camera body, as we can see here, I have attached a massive lens to it, which allows me to take photos of this surfer. So here, if we look at different kinds of lenses, we can look at different lengths. So here we have 18 to 15 millimeters, or we can go up to, I think it's around, it's a high number, I know that. Let's see, let's look for the highest zoom camera. Zoom and focal length. So here we have a very high kind of focal length, which is 55 meters to 250 meters, which essentially what that means is you're getting a really far away image, but it's now up close that you can see it very well. And all these cameras and all these lenses work in different ways. Some don't work with each other. So figuring that out is the best way to kind of navigate the world of cameras and these different functions. So the way to exactly do that are here we have a massive lens, which is 200 to 800 millimeters. So essentially, what goes into kind of picking the right camera, picking the right lens, picking the right equipment is finding the right body first. First, you want to find the body that fits you. So if we go back here, let's go to mirrorless cameras. So here, if we look at the body, essentially what we want to do is we want to find the right body that'll fit my needs as a photographer. So here we can see that that this camera works with the different types of lenses, such as the 24 to 105 millimeter. It supports 8K, that sort of thing. So whatever I'm looking for is what I need to focus on. So then once I look at ESO R5C body, then I could go online and I could look at what kinds of lenses are compatible with this camera that I'm using, or how, or take the specific photography that you're trying to do. So since I am mainly focusing on landscape photography currently, but I am taking photos of the surfer, I have to switch my lenses around. Because typically for landscape photography, I don't need to be zoomed in as much. But for taking photos of a surfer out on the water, I need a really good zoomed in lens in order to capture that moment that's happening. So considering what your option is, considering what you enjoy with photography is really what is important, because you want to get the right gear that is suited to you and that you don't have to eventually return because it messed up and you got the wrong thing. So always doing research in the camera is really important. But after that, once you get all the photos done, once you get all the photos taken and you have your nice new camera with you and you have all the gear such as a tripod and other things of that nature, essentially what can go on from here is you can now preview your photos. So each one of these cameras allows you to kind of preview your photos. And then there's also an SD chip that you can buy where you can view your photos on a computer. So if I were to add all my photos onto the MacBook that I'm on now, I could preview all of my photos. So all of the best photographers typically use desktop computers or they use MacBooks in order to edit their photos. And the different kinds of software depends on what they're trying to do with the photo. So the most popular software for digital photography is any form of Adobe product. So let's say Adobe Lightroom is a photo editing software. So with Adobe Lightroom, essentially what you can do is you can edit your photos around, you can customize them, you can change the image quality, you can change the color, the saturation, you can change filters and different things like that. And essentially what they're doing with this is they're trying to enhance their photos as best as they can. So here, this photo here we see is a digital photo because it's on the internet. The difference between digital and non-digital is essentially means that it's online. You're not looking at an actual like Polaroid picture that you can hold in your hand. You're looking at a photo that you can see online, or on the camera screen. But at the same time, using things like Lightroom, there are certain costs to it, um, especially if you're going for the package. So what I have currently is I have the Creative Cloud All Apps, which starts at around $30 a month, or you can do the Lightroom and Photoshop bundle, which essentially allows you to play around with both. So if you're trying to create different images, if you're trying to add images on top of each other, if you're trying to make kind of like a futuristic feel and add in things that weren't necessarily into your photos, you might want to use both Lightroom and Photoshop. If you're just looking to edit your photos, like family photos or photos of animals or anything like that, you might want to use Lightroom. Simply just use Lightroom. But the Creative Cloud for all apps with Adobe, essentially what you get is a wide variety of different apps that you can edit your photos with. So this means different things like Lightroom. This means different things like Photoshop. This means different video editors. This means different image generators. And now since Adobe is switching, not switching, since Adobe is adding an AI function, it also comes with kind of like a way for you to use AI to incorporate your photos. So you could say, I want this section of my photo removed. And the AI will remove that section of your photo, and then you have a cleaned up photo. But getting into digital photography is really just about what you enjoy. It's not about being the best at first. If you do want to move up to the professional level of digital photography, it becomes much harder because it also becomes much more expensive. So if we look at cameras like this one that this guy's holding in the Canon website, we can look at his body. So we can look that we just saw this camera body and then this lens, which easily what he's holding could cost up to $5,000 right there. So it's really about what your preferences and what your budget is. It doesn't really matter what you're trying to do with photography as long as it's just what you like doing. So if you like taking photos of animals, if you like taking photos of different landscapes, if you like taking photos of people, it really depends on what you like and what type of what means you use with it. So what I mean by means is if you're doing it regularly, if you're going out and you're taking photos of people or these animals or this landscape, and if you're doing it constantly, then you might want a more expensive camera like this camera here, because you're using it all the time. But if you're just doing it casually or something like that, you might want to use a cheaper camera, that doesn't necessarily cost that much, but at the same time can still get you those beautiful photos no matter what. Also, there are different kinds of beginner cameras out there in the world that are still digital and that still allow you to take beautiful photos. And these beginner cameras, while they may not have a ton of functions, they are still able to take these beautiful photos. They're still able to teach you along the way and allow you to customize how you use your photos and how you take your photos. So these beginner cameras can essentially cost somewhere between, I believe it's $100 and then $500. So those are the cheaper cameras that are out there for people. Or if you want to move up to a little bit more professional, a little bit more professional, a little bit more powerful, you might look at cameras that go above $500, such as this one. And it's still compact and it still takes amazing quality. It's just that it's a little bit more compact. It's a little bit smaller and it doesn't have that complicated of functions. So here we can see a cheaper camera that is for beginners as well as this one. But essentially, it's really just about enjoyment and not about worrying about sort of being at that pro level. But digital photography is something that is now getting more mainstream because we now use our phones for everything. We now take photos on our phones. We now do all of those functions. So if you're taking photos of a loved one at a birthday party, that's being a part of digital photography. You may not know it. You may just think, okay, this is a photo that I would cherish. That's digital photography right there. You are already doing digital photography in your everyday life. It's just a matter of how far you want to take it, what you want to do later in life with it. So once again, my name is Brandon Faulkner. I'm an intern for Village Core. For other events like this, be sure to check out villagecore.org or check out our YouTube channel. And actually, really quick before we end, I will demonstrate on camera the camera setup that I currently have for taking photos. So let me just hold on 1 second. So essentially, it's messing with my background, but essentially here, if it loads in, is I have a, it's not loading in, but I have a massive lens, as we can see here. I have a massive lens with a camera body in order to take photos of the surfer. Typically, I wouldn't use such a massive lens in order to take photos, but I need it at this point because she's very far away and I can't see her. So I need a massive lens in order to zoom in and get the perfect shot, which so far it's been very hard, but I'm getting there. All right, so thank you everybody for watching.